can be controversial. However, whether you call it Israel, Palestine, the Holy Land, or the Promised Land, there is no doubting that this region of the Middle East is special for Jews, Christians, and Muslims, and has become one of the most, if not the most, difficult geopolitical issues of our time. So this chapter explores the different theologies associated with the land and the end times. It looks at the different peoples involved, and very briefly touches on some of the political issues, although any of these topics are so vast that they require books of their own. Indeed, many evangelicals have written books about the Holy Land, and these books have a significant impact on their relationship with Muslims. Yet again, evangelicals are deeply divided and have different views on the meaning and importance of the land. Was the land promised to the Jews alone, or should they share it and bless other nations? Was the return of the Jews to the land in the 20th century a fulfillment of biblical prophecy, or were those prophecies already fulfilled long ago? Are events and wars in the Middle East part of some inevitable end times timetable? Or is the Israeli state a secular state unjustly oppressing their Palestinian neighbours? Evangelicals disagree on all these things. Some support everything the Israeli government does and see the Palestinians, especially Muslims, as the enemies of God's people. This is very common among evangelicals in the United States. Many believe that in the end times the Antichrist will be a Muslim, or that the beast of Revelation will turn out to be Islam. Some even think that when Jesus returns, he will fight and kill Muslims. Other evangelicals focus on praying for Israel and the peace of Jerusalem, and there are lots of organisations dedicated to this. However, still other evangelicals focus on issues of justice and peacemaking. They believe that the Palestinians, Muslims and Christians have been mistreated by Israel and let down by the world. Many of them are involved in attempts at reconciliation between Jews, Muslims and Christians. Arguably, the Israel-Palestine question generates more emotion, bitterness and division within the evangelical public sphere than any other issue, maybe with the exception of the debate about insider movements, which I look at later in the book. At stake is the very vision of who God is and his purposes for mankind. One group of evangelicals see God as a partisan God on the side of the Jews, by which they mean the modern state of Israel. So they end up believing that the Palestinians, and in fact all Muslims, are God's enemies because they resist the state of Israel, and so Jesus, the Prince of Peace, will one day return as a warrior bent on destroying Muslims. Everything that happens in the Middle East is part of God's preordained end-of-time purposes. The other group rejects these ideas. They believe that God is equally the God of all ethnic peoples. The Jews may or may not be more special than any other ethnic group, but even they are supposed to treat other people justly, including Palestinians. This group worries that uncritical Western Christian support for the state of Israel alienates Muslims and makes the task of mission much more difficult, as well as perpetuating a great injustice. So, particularly against the backdrop of the terrible death and destruction in 2023, it really is one of the biggest issues dividing the evangelical public sphere today.